Hey.
Cheers.
Oh my God.
Good to see you.
You got us all started right away.
There you
man.
go.
That's awesome.
No, we got to get it going.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers to you too.
And I hope you enjoyed the Huckshoe 12-year-old, which you've already told me that you love already. So
yes. No, it's delicious. Yeah.
I can't, first of all, thank you so much for getting back to me. It's been, 12 years since we saw each other?
And we haven't changed at all.
I have not changed. No, you look exactly the same. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
And, I love compliments. Keep them coming.
I would. As I drink more of this, then I definitely will. And it's 10:30 in the morning, and this is my...
Well, but remember, it's 5 o'clock someplace in the world.
Somewhere else, yes.
There you go.
Yes, if I'm going to start drinking at 10 a.m. in the morning, it might as well be something that's really, really special to enjoy.
Absolutely, and with special company.
Absolutely,
okay,
yes. So, remind me again, and to the people who don't know you, give me a little bit of a brief history of who you are and what you're doing now.
Well, my name's David Hawley, and I've been in the fashion business for eons, and so. I decided that I wanted to make a change. Well, I'm going to say I decided to. I was speaking to one of my customers who happens to own several car dealerships. So I went to his house to visit, and he said, "So what are you doing?" I was about to work with another company, and then he said, "Why don't you come and work for me?" So I took the job, and I'm selling McLarens. And I have to say, when I first started there, I had my trepidations because, it's an expensive car. So I read the book about Bruce McLaren. And I was really impressed at all of the hurdles he had to overcome to be able to do what he does. He's like the little engine that could. So he, when he was younger, he ended up having some sort of a disease where his hip joint wasn't connecting. So he had to be in this cast for several years, and and he went through that, and also being that he's not actually British. I mean, he's a colonist or whatever. I forgot. There's a term that I'm forgetting, but he's actually from New Zealand. And a lot of times, back in the old days, they didn't have all the parts that are available, like in Europe and America. So they would take part from a Ford, take it from whatever, and they would finagle it in such a way that it would work in a car. And that's when he started, his racing, and his racing team was pretty much the same way. They knew how to work with everything. So, in doing so, here you have McLaren. And I have to say, they have definitely mastered the art of speed.
McLarens. I saw a video of a drag race, McLaren 720S.
Yes.
Lamborghini Pista and Lamborghini Avantgarde.
Yes.
I forgot the name of that. And then Ferrari Pista.
Yeah. Okay.
McLaren smoked them.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, but I remember from in the quarter mile, that's where McLaren smoked them. From 0 to 60. That's when the Aventador. That's when it.
Well, it's like double the price too, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know if the Aventador is double the price because a McLaren 720 is about $350,000.
Well, that's chump change for everybody around here.
Well, of course, everybody should have one. But it's amazing. Like when you drive the car, you think to yourself, "This is what I thought was." First, I got behind the wheel and I said, "My God, this is an expensive car," and a very powerful car. And I just wanted to make sure, could I handle this? I was insecure. But once I got behind the wheel and started driving the car, I really had a deep appreciation for it. I have to say, McLaren has mastered the art of speed.
Wow. That is just, man, if I could go, I still haven't done this yet. I want to go to Vegas to the Speedway and rent those exotic cars and just take them around that whole track there where it's like free range, do what you want to do, because just to be behind the wheel of that thing, I can only imagine.
It's amazing what comes up for you. That being said, I try to tell people it's a powerful car. Respect the speed. And sometimes what happens is our adrenaline kicks in, and we go to the, lack of better words, go to the stupid. So we become more reactionary. And in a car like that, it will respond to what you're doing. It could be favorable or unfavorable. You really have to respect the speed in any of these cars. They are works of art, but a lot of when it comes to the design, everything that's done with these cars, it's done intentionally. It's for the aerodynamics, the drag coefficient, and things of that nature. It's really important.
Well, I'm glad that you understand all that because if you're going to sell that car, people are going to ask you every technical detail that they can. Like, so tell me about the fiberglass material. Tell me about all the carbon fiber and whatnot. Like, geez, you got to be on top of that to know all that.
Well, you do, but then also, Mike, it's interesting. You have people who know more than you do. And a lot of times it is important to be to understand the technology. But what I think at the end of the day, just like anything, it's a relationship. It's amazing when you sit and talk to these people and the reason why they buy their cars. Like I met a gentleman who's a physician, and he said, "You know why I bought my McLaren?" He says, I said, "Why?" He said, "Because what I do is so stressful and so intense. This is my way of de-stressing." And if that will help him do what he does best, then fine. There are other people who buy those cars because they're collector's items for them.
Yeah.
And they love the technology. So there are all these different reasons. But what's so interesting is when you are able to sit down and you have these conversations with these people, it's what you learn about them and also what you learn about yourself. It's really quite amazing.
I can see that. Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned the physician client that you've had in the past who said, he's probably working 80 hours a week, and who knows if he's in a hospital, private practice, whatever, and he's up to his probably eyebrows and just the stress and things that he sees every day to be able to say, you know what, I need something that I can just take on the road, go on a road trip to wherever, Nevada, Los Angeles, whatever, and just, let myself feel free, feel stress-free, feel the power in that car. And I could definitely see that as being a good stress relief. I mean, you got to be careful with it.
Oh, yes.
Because that thing will just keep going. And
it will.
Wow.
And it'll take you with it.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Yeah, it will take you with it.
That's very interesting there. So obviously somebody who's going to buy a McLaren, they need to be financially well off because it's not a cheap vehicle. But if you could just describe most of the people who buy those things, are they somebody who just want to collect it and keep it in the garage, like shine it up, or it's like...
Well, you do have those. But a lot of the guys who buy these cars actually take them out on the tracks. They race them. And we do have track days. We'll have them in Sonoma as well as in Laguna Seca. But also what's interesting is people think there's a certain age demographic. And I can tell you right now, I have been surprised. The reason why I say that is you have these young people now who are... They've done well. They're engineers. Their companies have gone, public. They, cash out, and they make an exorbitant amount of money. I've noticed two things that they buy. They'll buy homes and cars. And I can tell you, you will not know that person walking on the street. They're not your typical well-dressed or whatever. They're not. It's not really a concern of theirs because what they have is cerebral. So, and a lot of them work in confined environments, so they don't really have to present. Mm-hmm. And they're our new customer. And again, there's an old saying, and I've learned this, and I think it's worked to my advantage. Never judge a book by its cover. Never, because you'll be surprised.
You will definitely be surprised with that. And I think I don't know if it was you or somebody else I was talking to maybe a decade ago when we were working over there at Bloomingdale's, which was... You started seeing a shift, and as the technology companies got more bigger around here, that people surprisingly who were making a lot of money weren't coming in to buy the expensive Xenia, the Canali, or the Emporio Armani suits. You had people walking around in your basic T-shirt, jeans, maybe some nice shoes, but they weren't going overboard on fashion like the old school day was. That if you made a lot of money, you got to show it. You got to wear the what's Cartier jewelry, you got to wear the Rolex watches, you got to flash that you're making money. Nowadays here in the tech industry especially, it's very low key, like you said. You have people who are in the office all day and the environments are much more casual.
Yes.
I mean, you got people who go into work in pajamas probably.
Absolutely.
So
and flip-flops.
Exactly. So there's no need to have to show outwardly the way you dress, how much money you make, because now you can't tell. It used to be at the very least somebody who was wearing a nice watch, regardless of everything else, that's how you were able to tell. Nowadays, not even that. And I've seen people driving down the freeway in McLarens and whatnot. Of course, you want to just drive by and say, who's driving that? I bet you it's probably some, older person with sunglasses and slick back hair. And you see, that's he's got to be 20, 30 years old.
You're absolutely right.
Like, he's driving McLaren. Like, first of all, how did you get that age? And man, tell me where you work at, because if you can get that much money there, I want in on that piece. You're right. It's crazy how now it's that's the way it is.
Oh, yeah,
That,
it is.
people just dress very casual, and you cannot make judgments. You shouldn't anyway, but especially in a dealership, someone walks in, they could be the next, Jeff Bezos. You would never know
No.
if you just go based on their
Appearance.
Yes, thank you. So, wow, that's very interesting to know that. I mean, I kind of suspected it, but to hear it from you saying, hey, this is the new way it is around here, that's
Oh, it is.
incredible.
And I've met a lot of these girls and guys, and they're really nice people. But what's also interesting is, okay, so here you've gone to school, you've worked hard, you've become an engineer, you get this job, they're paying you top dollar, then you're making even more money. So, okay, a lot of these, some of them come from middle class, lower middle class, some of them upper middle class, if not wealthy families. But there's a whole genre of different people. But what's interesting is, as you were saying before, they all tend to dress the same, so you can't tell distinguish one from the other. So
Exactly.
that is where you have to be careful. But what I was trying to get to is, think of someone who comes from humble beginnings, and now they've worked hard. They've gotten a great job. Now they've made all this money that they've never had before. A lot of them are I think it almost blows them away, the fact that, okay, I have this, what am I going to do with it? And there's certain things that you want. There's nothing worse than when that person comes into your place of business, I don't care what it is, and you give them the up and down and just put them in that you've already decided who they are.
Yeah.
Versus letting that person come in, let them walk around. They may be a little skittish at first because this is something, they're in an area that is not of comfort to them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you welcome them with a smile, give them space. When they ask for a few things, give them an explanation, but know that you're there to create a wonderful experience for this person. The reward that you will get from this will be so much more.
I believe it. Just, picturing myself being in your dealership and just seeing the people that come through, and it's like, wow, the different reasons why someone might be in here, but just to be able to say, let them, because if I was in that position where I'm a multimillionaire, the last thing I probably would want going into a dealership like that is they're hounding me like, okay, who's going to get the sale on this one here? He's probably loaded or whatever. Just let me go and look at the merchandise, and then as I get more comfortable with everybody around that they're not pressuring me, yeah, I'll ask some questions.
Yes.
That's a very smart idea. It kind of leads into something else that I wanted to talk about with you, which is we were talking about earlier before we had this conversation about some of the things that we're seeing in the world that are concerning to us. And one of the things that I was thinking about was some of this, obviously you don't want to drop any names, but some of like the psychology of some people who do buy some of these vehicles. Do you see some people who are using it as a way to not cover up, but try to make up for something else that they're missing?
Oh God, yes. I mean, the same thing you can, when it comes to purchasing cars or homes or whatever, it's this whole idea of, let me put it this way. I'll never forget it. There was a book I read. It was called, I think, I forget the name of the book, but there was a passage in there that said he bound them in parchment and leather. He read them, but he never read them. So what that says is, I surround myself with all of these things that become the trappings of my existence. They're not really who I am, but it's a representation of what I'd like you to see me as being, and therefore that makes me successful. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I do feel that success is not just financial gain, of course, is important. But if you have this financial position, which is elevated, and you can live a lifestyle that you've never lived before, but yet and still you feel that you're not there, your heart's not into it, then what is it all for? It's all smoke and mirrors. And at the end of the day, you're going to be constantly thirsting for the next acquisition. It's like, it's another saying that's, I've been to paradise, but I've never been to me. So if I surround myself with all these trappings, when do I get a chance to really be me?
Yeah, it's a good.
What do I really want? And it's, sometimes I think we just get caught up in the idea of what wealth or happiness should be versus actually being happy.
It is I guess it is the dark side of, you earn so much money. Here's the caveat that may come with it too, is something like that. Maybe you just get you may be a prisoner of the money that you make, and it's like, what do you do with it? I'm sure in your industry there, because I would expect it that as you're selling a vehicle to somebody, you're getting to know them really well.
Yes.
Tell me about, where you grew up at, your family, how'd you get your success in whatever career that you're in. You're listening to people talk to you, and you realize that it's really a trust there that they have with you and you have with them. It's not just about selling a car. It's about, you have to be able to trust me to know that I'm authentic and so forth, because that's how people say I'm comfortable making this big purchase.
Well,
with you.
at the end of the day, it's just like when you go buy clothing or whatever. I think what's most of the impression I think we mostly want to be left with is the experience. We made a connection. I felt comfortable with you. Yes, I'm buying a car, a piece of jewelry, whichever, but mostly I've connected with another individual. Because at the end of the day, that's I think means the most. I'll share this with you. There was a woman who had called me out of the blue, and she said, her son was going to. It was his birthday, and he loved McLaren. She said, this is probably a ridiculous request, but could he, take a ride in one? I said, absolutely. She said, do you do that for me? I said, absolutely, I will. So we had a little birthday party for him. She blindfolded him. I put him in the car. He went on a ride. He was telling me about it. And, he was telling me, he was telling me about his sisters and brothers. And I said, so who's the coolest? He says, I'm the coolest. I said, well, there you go. And then after we went back to the dealership, he looked at me and he put his arms around me. He said, thank you. I said, you're so welcome. And then his mother said, I can't believe you did this for me. I said, I did it for me too. I said, look at that smile, it's priceless. And then she reached into her purse, and then she, came out when she had something in her hand. And I put my hand on her hand. I said, what your son gave me and you is priceless. I said, you can't put a figure on that. Thank you. And then she gave me a hug and she cried on my shoulder. But it was wonderful. And I did it on my day off, but I do it again because, he's our future generation. And when we are kind like that to others, it does have a cyclical effect. It does have a domino effect. And other people pick up on that energy. I think sometimes just a little blurb, a little change, a little kindness, a smile, that can really change a person's way of thinking. You might make a person's day by just saying good morning. You never know what's going on.
You never know. That is something that I've learned as I've gotten older, is exactly what you're saying here, is that you don't know what's going on in somebody's mind as they're passing you down the street. But the littlest things that you can do, whether it's holding the door open for somebody that has 2 bags of groceries and they can't reach the door, or letting somebody get out of the parking stall before you because you're not in a hurry, and maybe that 1 second or two is going to help them because their mind's somewhere else. No matter what it is, or somebody can't afford a cup of coffee, they forgot their wallet, just buying it for them. You're out $2, whatever it is. Those little changes there, they can make a big impact on so many people's lives, and you're right. More of that is definitely needed, but a lot of us get so caught up in I have to get here, it's me first. If I don't do this, someone's going to get it for me, which, they're not totally wrong. That's part of human nature, is sometimes we get very competitive, and if I give 1 inch, someone's going to come out and then just destroy me, especially in the business world, the tech world. One false move, someone's going to jump on you.
But it's interesting. You just did it. You started saying, you did it with your hands, and I watched your shoulders. You said, I've got to be first here. It's time for me to go to work. And you know what the first thing you did? Your shoulders went up, and then you exhaled. Mm-hmm. But that just goes because, you're working up. See, we've worked ourselves up. When instead of doing it, we should be exhaling and relaxing our shoulders. And when you think about it, okay, so I cut you off. Did I get there any quicker? So what did I accomplish? Now, this time I may have gotten away with it, but if I'm in my car and I cut another person off, I might cause an accident. So was it worth that just to get that extra 1 or 2 seconds?
Exactly.
Or, if you have to be someplace at a certain time, there are certain things, apps and things of that nature, where you can plan yourself. And so you're not so stressed. But a lot of us, and listen, I speak for myself. I'm no different. I've been part of that. I've done that where I have to be at a certain place at a certain time. I get all worked up and everything. And by the time I'm there, I need several drinks to calm down. And then finally I'm able to, relax and actually enjoy myself. When in fact, come on. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be something. You got to pick and choose. And the most important thing is to if we could just practice being, doing unto others as we would like them to do unto us, and just realize we're not that different. But also segueing a little bit, the reason, it's interesting. You look at the car world, you look at being in fashion. It's all about beauty. I mean, you come to appreciate the beauty of the product. So if you can appreciate that in clothing, if you can appreciate that in architecture, if you can just appreciate beauty, period, working with a car or whatever, not a problem, because you appreciate beauty.
Yes, that is well spoken. It's exactly something that needs to be said more often there. Is it just taking a step back and just appreciating what it is that you have, the people in your life, the little things that, I've been guilty as well of it too, that you just get so caught up in the wrong things that you forget, oh, I'm affecting somebody else that way, or I forgot to call my mother for this, whatever it is. And, you take a step back. When I was 20, I probably would have not cared because I'm so young, and you just want to get ahead. You're go, 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 go. Everything's new when you're fresh out of college. And as you get into your 30s, it's like, hold on, it's not all about me. It really isn't, because like even just me and you talking here with everything that we have here, if people don't ever know, like this is all me doing everything on my own afterwards. I don't do it because I'm making money, because I'm not. I'm doing it because I enjoy this conversation. As I get older, I appreciate just sitting down talking to people like you who I haven't seen in 10, 12 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Exactly. And just to find out what's going on, what you've been through, because to me, that helps me grow as a person. It helps me see the world differently. Like, I wouldn't mind having somebody here, like sitting where you're at now, who I completely did disagree with, and already I'm making judgments about mine. But to give them the opportunity to tell me their side of the story, where they came from, why they believe what they believe, it's like, oh, I never would have seen the world that way. I never would have seen what you're seeing, because I don't live that. Now that I see it, I may not agree with it still, but it gives me the opportunity to be able to have a conversation with you. Say, okay. Because most of us don't do things out of negative intent. We do it out of what we see as, a positive change.
Yes.
But to somebody else who grows up in a different area or a different way of life,
they have a different perspective.
Exactly.
And it's it's so funny. We try to put ourselves in their shoes, but we can empathize, but to be in a person's shoes and to go through that experience is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to see the anger in someone's eyes, and then it's being projected to you. I'm backing up. I'll never forget, I was in BART one time, and this guy he had his bike, and he rushed on BART, and, there were lots of people standing there, and there was this woman who he bumped into, and she said, excuse me, and he called her several names that were undesirable. So I looked at him. I said, well, this is not necessary. And, and he said, why don't you mind your own business? I said, this is my business. I said, you have your thing, trying to get to work or whatever. You probably have your problems or whatever. She has hers. I said, so we are different places. And I said, and you labeled her because her color happens to be different than yours. I said, so, I mean, what is your point in all of this? All you did is she's crying, and, and you're upset because what you did was wrong. I said, so on your behalf, I'm going to apologize to her. And then I looked at him and I said, well, you got something to say? And then later on, she said, I'm just trying to get home to my mother. I said, I understand. If we would just be more understanding, we get it. I mean, come on. We all got our stuff, but just slow down. And again, I've been guilty of it. And then later on, when I've done that, I've just, after long, just the way I am, I feel bad about it. So, do you want to feel bad? Yeah. Do you want it? No.
Exactly. And I guess I've been just as guilty of that in the past too. You get so caught up, and it's like, me right now, out the way.
There you go.
And then afterwards you realize, that stuck with me now. It wouldn't have stuck with me when I was 21 years old, because I wouldn't have cared. Just when you're young, you just don't think of it that way.
No, we do. But hopefully, thankfully, that we haven't done anything to harm anyone.
Exactly.
Badly.
Yes.
We may have done certain things that are not nice,
right?
That way, but
like a real short side segment here. There's a gentleman that I want to bring on now, sometime soon. He grew up in Mississippi. He's like 60, 70 years old now. I started talking to him one day randomly, and he was telling me about how, and I'll let him tell the story. He grew up in Mississippi during those bombings.
Yes.
When all that was happening there, and it was just a way of life. That's just what I knew. He comes over here, and he goes through what he goes through in life. And he was telling me one day he was walking down the street, and he sees this young kid, maybe 17 years old, with his pants down, pretty much down to the below the waist. So he's like, "Man, you don't do that." So he goes and tells the kid, "Hey, pull your pants up. That's disrespectful, whatever." Because back in his day, somebody told him that who was an elder. He'd be like, "Yes, sir. Sorry about that. I apologize."
Yes.
And this kid straight up told him off. He's like, "I don't like the way you're talking to me. Better watch yourself." And this, older 60, 70-year-old guy is like, "Man, what do you do with some of these young kids now? Like, I have to be careful that I don't get shot or something because I, piss off the wrong young kid who doesn't know any better. And, here I am trying to help him out, tell him, hey, showing him the bigger picture, and he doesn't want to hear it." So it was interesting hearing them talk about it. Like, yeah, there are some people out there who, because of how they grew up, it's just, I see you as a threat, so I'm not even going to listen to you. I'm not even going to look at you and say, you've been here in this planet 3 times as long as I've been alive. To know that you've seen a lot more than I could probably ever imagine or even probably knew existed. And, that you're just going to tell that person off. And it's different. It was like a little bit
the
of
lack of respect that's what I
right.
Find, yeah.
So that's one thing that I've seen happen. Not as much as, thankfully not as much, but it happens. The younger generation, as we get older and there's less wars or no wars, and there's less of the issues that used to kind of unite us in the past. Now it's kind of like, all right, we're turning it on each other. So I've seen that, and it's always one thing that I've tried to figure out the best way to address, because you can't, change the world overnight, not one person. But like me and you having this conversation here, if the one person who watches this that says, I never thought of seeing the world that way, then maybe I should be a little more observant, kinder, just respect people more, a little bit more, to know that they're not out to get me, or that if I let down my guard somehow I'm gonna get hurt. It's like, no, it's just listening to people, for example.
No, and you said something. You made the statement "out to get me," and then you also commented on how there are younger people who grow up in a certain way. Moms at work, they live in an area where there's gun. It sounds like firecrackers to me, but it's actual gunfire, which I find bizarre. You never know what that does to one's psyche. So let's say that you have this older gentleman. He grew up in Mississippi. He saw that side of the world, and so of course, and also he grew up in the South where manners were first and foremost. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. That sort of respect was embedded in you, in your hide, as it were. That was a double entendre.
Yeah.
But so they're coming from 2 different worlds. So I kind of wonder. Now, again, we heard his side of the exchange, but we didn't hear the young man's.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. You have to be careful of your tone, the inflections in your voice, and how you deliver it. I can say something, a sentence that if I deliver it, you will have a different impression than if I deliver it than another person would. So that's also something that you have to be cognizant of, especially if you're going to, I'm just going to say, step out of your comfort zone and enter in somebody else's, so to speak. How do you address that? I mean, maybe would have been better to have said, by the way, this is just an observation that I have made, and I want to know if I can share that with you. And he might have been a little more receptive. I don't know. I think you have to, it's timing, it's knowing how to speak to people, and still, even though you hopefully use the right phrasing and intonations and things of that nature, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be received well, but at least you tried.
If there's one thing that I've learned in my industry about people who have that mindset, it's in their mind, it's you're disrespecting me. And if you disrespect me as a young person, I have to get my honor back, which usually ends up being, something happens where somebody's not with us anymore. Because the mindset is, hey, you don't do that in front of me. You don't do that in front of my friends, my
But
wife.
So what honor did you get back?
They don't understand that at a younger age.
And it's sad because, okay, if getting my honor means that there is a fatality or someone is seriously hurt, then you didn't get your honor back. But yet and still, if you grow up in an environment where, let's say, mom and dad aren't there, you have this gang, this is part of the initiation, and you have been programmed, you've been taught that this is how you do things, and this is honorable, then yes, I can understand. And I don't agree with it, but you can understand it. And, it's sad, Mark, that when you see things like that, I mean, it's like, how do I get through to this person? Because he doesn't know that if he continues on this path, he will become non-existent and or someone else. Mm-hmm. And someone will have a price to pay that's a lot higher than they think.
Yeah. Funny thing is that some people know that already. They're like, yeah, I know that's going to be my future. I know I'm probably not going to live past 30. I know that. They already accept it. It's the environment that some people are in. It's like, yeah, it's just the way it is. Take them out of that environment, put them in another environment that's more willing to support them. They don't have to worry about the fear of walking down the street and something's going to happen to me. You don't have to worry about the fear that I got to watch my back. You take that stress off of them. All of a sudden, the real positive human natures come out. It's like, oh, okay, I can be a little more relaxed. I can open up to people per se. I can open up my wall, if you will, to trust other people. And then that's how things start to bridge. Like, oh, okay, there is a better world out here. It's not about, if someone makes me feel like I got disrespected, that now it's not the end of the world. We can actually have a conversation about it. Different environment. And, it's one of the things that's like the biggest challenge around a lot of this country is you have the haves and the have-nots, and everybody says the haves are getting more, which, they probably are, just kind of the way capitalism works. But the people who don't have any, do we use the victim mindset of I'm never going to get anything and they're always going to be ahead of me, so I'm going to take what I can and that's the end of it? Or do we say, how do we get the environment corrected so that you do have the opportunity to be the haves and you can just jump on that train there too and see the opportunities available? Like, what's the best way forward? And that's a whole combination of politics and law enforcement and society and cultural changes, and it's a whole big to do there too that cannot be solved by one person, by one entity, and it cannot be solved overnight that we're seeing. But we're making progress. I like to think that we're making progress.
Well, that being said, it's interesting. Like now you have, again, like I said, the people that have been coming in and buying these cars are in their 20s, early to late 20s. It's interesting. I had a young man who came in and he was 16. And
16.
Yeah, but but when I sat there and I started talking, when we were talking, I said, "So what do you want to do?" And he says, "I'm not sure exactly what profession I'm going to go into, but I want to do something to help with environmental change because, we're losing our planet." And I was thinking, this is coming out of someone who's so young. And I do think a lot of young people now are recognizing what maybe the baby boomers, who are the biggest consumers, did not recognize. But then also I give kudos to the baby boomers because a lot of them came from, humble beginnings and everything, and they wanted to provide a better life for their children. But, sometimes by giving, you stifle someone from actually growing because it becomes an expectation. So then you have the group of me, I. Yeah. And that presents another set of problems. But I do think what's happening now is a lot of people are thinking that it's not I, it's not me, it's we. Mm-hmm. So, and maybe that's the reason why you don't see the way that they dress across the board in the tech industry is pretty, it's casual, and it's an acceptance. And I don't care what socioeconomic background you come from, they all dress the same. Mm-hmm. They all start to look the same, and they're there for a greater purpose. There's a group called Oasis, and what they do is they get, they have people who have ideas as well as financiers, and they have these symposiums, and they sit and talk about global change and how they can make change in the world. And this group is worldwide, and I've gone to I went to one of their symposiums. I was really quite amazed at listening to these people and how passionate they are about making the world a better place.
That's crazy.
It is.
You know how you said not the haves, the me part of it right there, things that have been given to them. It's easy for people on one side of the coin to say, hey, wait a minute, those people over here are making millions and billions of dollars, and they're not sharing the wealth, whatever. The assumption is that things have been given to them. That's why they're so rich. But reality is most people who have these successful companies, Steve Jobs when he was around, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, even the richest guy in the world now, it wasn't given to them. These people had to start off with nothing, go into crazy amounts of debt. They had a dream. They had to build upon it, living at mom's house until they were in their late 20s, whatever, because they had no money. They're just working hard to get something going. And then it takes off. And then they hit the market at the right time. The iPhone comes out at the right time, everything. And and then all of a sudden it's just like to the moon after that. And they've built that. Most people who have that I've seen around here, these Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, CEOs and whatnot, they've built that thing from the ground up. They put the work in. They went into crazy amounts of debt to get where they're at now. Venture capitalists jump on it, and next thing you know, the company's worth X amount billions of dollars. And it's like, on one hand, they lived the American dream. They made it. They've got to where they want. They envisioned this, and they got to where they want to. It wasn't given to them. I've seen a few, but not very many people who got to that high of the mountain because daddy had a $10 million trust fund. He passed away and said, here you go. It's all right there for you. I see very few of those, and I see a lot more of self-made people that just, right place, right time, right ambition, nothing holding them back, no shame in living at mom's basement for a while and then just going off for it. And it's like that willingness to want to be able to make it happen. That's what's really hidden in the whole mindset of they have this and we don't.
And that peak said there are a lot of them and a lot of wealthy people who are extremely philanthropic. I mean,
yes.
I call her the matriarch of San Francisco. She was instrumental in when the San Francisco Ballet was failing. She was able to call in favors and friends, and now it's become, or I don't know if so much now, but I know at one time it was one of the finest ballet companies in the world. Also, when it came to the arts, she was passionate about supporting the arts, so much so she's been given so many awards by the city. And you look at her, and yes, she does. She dresses to the nines. She's an elegant woman. But also what I think is great about her is she was passionate about what she loved. And did she come from humble beginnings? No. But she gave back. And she's also taught her children to do the same thing. But people don't see that. There are other matriarchs of this city who have given for the disadvantaged to become pianists and violinists and things of that nature. They were given pianos, violins, other musical instruments, and they were able to study at the conservatory. And this was all taken care of by certain people. Certain grants that are put forth by people who don't want they want the money there, but they don't want their names known.
Yeah.
So there is also that's that part that we don't get to see.
There is with that was like the Bill Gates Foundation when he was the richest man in the world before Jeff Bezos came along. How much money he would give Bill and Melinda when they were together? They would just give to these organizations and still do to this day. You could look at it as they're doing that so they can get more money elsewhere. But I really see it as once you hit a certain point, no matter who you are, once you make enough money to keep all the bill collectors at bay and you live a comfortable life, basic home, comfortable home, 1 or 2 cars, you have plenty of food on the table and your kids have a college, whatever it is, you're living happily. After that, the money that you make beyond that doesn't necessarily bring you any more happiness. So, and I've seen this a lot with people who make exorbitant amounts of money. Really, it only takes about this much here and they're happy, but then they're making all this much money over there. So what do? They give it away. A lot of them. I think Warren Buffett said that he's only going to give his children enough money so that they can get started, not too much to go crazy with. And Daniel Craig got some attention not too long ago. The James Bond actor, he said, "I'm not leaving my kids anything. I don't know how much he's worth, but he's not leaving them anything." I don't know his mindset, but maybe the mindset is you have to work for it. This money is going to another organization. This is my way of giving back to them. You have to earn yours, and I'm doing this to help you out. Or maybe he doesn't like his kids. I don't know which one it is, but it's kind of like why I do this too. Like in my industry, I make enough money and my wife makes enough money that we live comfortably. We like our life. We have enough food on the table. We have our vehicles, nothing extravagant. I drive a Honda Civic still. I take care of that thing. It runs great. I have no need to get a new one. Mm-hmm. If I had a Mclaren, I might. Different story there. But the idea is now that I have all that taken care of, doing this here is another way of me of sort of giving back to people. Just this conversation and putting it out there, having people just listen to it. There is no money involved. It's just giving it back that way because it's something that makes me feel good.
Well, Mike, you and your wife decided you wouldn't have children, so this is your baby.
Exactly.
And it fit. And I think it's great that you're doing this, and hopefully people will listen, and it gives them a chance to, and hope they're open up and have conversations that are difficult or interesting, and reaching out to people that maybe they never would speak to before, thinking about something in a different way. I mean, if it's enough to spark people to start thinking, I'm all for, and listening and changing their point of view. That doesn't mean you have to alter all of who you are, but you have to be willing and accepting of another point of view, and they're understanding where it's coming from. Not putting up that wall, but actually listening to what they have to say. And if you don't understand, there's nothing wrong with you saying, okay, this is what I'm getting, or I perceive from this conversation. And then that gives you a chance to clarify. And once we do this and we have this open dialogue, I think that's when change comes about. It's just like in a relationship, and I think it's sad now when you hear that so many people are breaking up. My first question is, so why did you marry this person? Why did you decide to have the house and everything else? And COVID has brought up a whole new set of things that we have to deal with and maneuver. So
it's funny that you said COVID, how it changed a lot of things, or
It
it
did.
brought things out.
yes,
We were talking earlier about the San Francisco rental market and how much the rents just dropped because everybody said, I want to go buy a house in the suburbs, and they all left the city. What it really showed to me was that just how much it was on the brink already, and that COVID thing was just the excuse for everybody to say, I got to get out of here. It was, I'm living here. I shouldn't be living here. The rents keep going up, but I got no choice because my job's here, and the work culture environment, I have to stay here. And the second that pandemic hit, it's, oh, I can leave, I'm leaving. Everybody then, people just left en masse.
and and I think also with that being said, now you can work remotely, and a lot of these people aren't returning back to their offices and things of that nature. Or if they do, it's just a few days a week, and a lot of conferences are done by Zoom now. So what is the need to go into an office? And also a big thing that's happening in the Bay Area is a lot of people are building ADUs, or, offices in the back where they're using it to school their children, and or it's their office. So they're still able to leave, it's not that they're at home in that home environment. They're able to go to another place. So I think it takes on a different, not different, how am I going to explain this? It's, it's like setting parameters or boundaries. So this is where I live. This is where I work. So I think that, and then I think moving forward, I guess this whole interpretation of work-live space is going to be different. I wonder now with architecture and homes and places, are there going to be, is it going to be designated in such a way? Or let's say, it's a condo complex and you have the place that you live, and then you have offices there where you work that are within the same complex. So the fact that you have to actually leave,
Yeah. There's
so,
a whole new world that we're living in now,
Yeah.
and who knows what's going to happen the next couple of years. I got to tell you, this thing is really starting to get to me. This is the problem with having good whiskey. At what time is it now? 11 in the morning.
just
Man,
take your time. Yeah, there you go. Take your time.
I got to ask you with that there too. So you've been in this personal, and you still do personal shopping.
Yes, I do.
Is it personal shopping, personal image consultant? What's that about?
Same thing. It's a plan semantics, same thing.
So how's it? Just people just call you randomly like, hey, I need to.
Yeah, I have friends and people I've known over the years, and they'll call and ask me to put them together, and I enjoy that. I have to tell you the story. When I was at Bloomingdale's, I'll never forget this one woman. She had she lived in the East Bay, and her children had gone off to college, and she wanted to revisit her husband. So she had some work done. He looked amazing. And so she wanted to get him some new clothes because she wanted to travel, do all these different things with him. So when he came in, he was a little reluctant. And so I pulled out all this stuff. He just wasn't getting with it. And she's standing there. I could see the disappointment in her eyes. So I said, you go have some coffee. Let me handle him. Okay. So I went into the room. I closed the door. I said, you've done well. Your wife's been right by your side. He said, where's this going? I said, it's going in the right direction it's supposed to. And I said, and you're going to let me tell you. You're going to listen to me. And I said, because I have your best interest at heart. So I said, okay, kids are off in college. Everyone's doing well. You've lived well. You've made lots of money. You and your wife made certain sacrifices. Part of that sacrifice is when you had children, it became more about them and less about you. Now, your wife wants to have a whole new honeymoon with the person that she fell in love with years ago, and you're not giving her the permission to do so. I said, so why'd you marry her? He said, excuse me? I said, why did you marry her? He says, because I love her. I said, good. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to put your butt in those pants. You're going to put on those shirts and everything. You're going to strut your stuff out there to that woman that loves you, and you're going to show her how much you love her because you made an agreement, and I'm going to make sure you see it through.
Oh,
So
that was
after
ballsy. That was ballsy.
After he did that, he came back and he said, I needed that. I said, we all need something. I said, but look, I mean, come on, you did well. You should enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's all that's all she wants from you. She's in love with you.
Man, that is awesome. And if I were him, that would be taking me back. Here's somebody who I think is going to sell me clothes, and they tell me what I need to hear. You're like, whoa, what did you just say to me? And then you put it in his place. In a good way. In a good way.
But you have to know how to. He needed to hear it. And sometimes we need to hear certain things.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best things that we need to hear are the ones that hurt the most.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had to hear that. Like, oh yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, trust me, I know that, and you've always been somebody that I know that if I ever did something like that, you would tell me straight up, hey, what are you doing? What's up with you? Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think if you would listen, if I would type what I write, you'd say, "Oh my God, that's pretty aggressive." But I think it's because of the way I deliver it, and when I say it, I mean it. I mean it from my heart. I'm not trying to be mean or whatever. But sometimes we just need that little wake up call, not that knock on the door.
And you could tell, like me talking to you face to face, I would know that you have good intentions because of the way that you're coming off to me. Compared to if you called me on the phone and said the same thing, I said, "What's this guy's problem? Like, why are you calling me and telling me this?" And
but
click.
you know me.
I know you too. But even if I didn't know, if I met you for the first time, be like something about the way you're telling it to me, all right, I'll listen.
Thank you. That's a compliment. Thank you very much.
Do it in front of all of my friends, and they're all looking at me like, "What are you gonna do?" And it's like, then you put up the wall, or whatever. But the right way to do it. You told the wife, "Hey, go do your thing. Let me talk to him." And there's nobody here to get embarrassed in front of. So he's like, "Yeah, you're right. I need to get my act together." And all right, tell me what you need me to do. And then I'm sure that did she ever follow up with you on how
she
that
did?
thing
No,
went?
she called me and she said thank you very much and everything. It's amazing. That's one thing I did like about that job is it's the relationships I built. But then there were other things with the dynamics of everything. We had I'll never forget when we were working there. We had all of the bigwigs there, at Bloomingdale sitting down talking about how we could change the environment and have a better connection with the salespeople and everything. And so, the managers telling their stories and things that went on in their life, and I thought that was all very interesting, and some of it was heartfelt. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to be me. I said, I think all this is well and good because we've all bonded, but instead of me saying, salesperson 692394, I noticed that you sold this, you have this many applications and you're selling this and doing that, but you're not so good at this and you're not doing that, so I need you to get there. Instead of it doing that and just put that aside and say, Robert, how are you doing today? I noticed that you don't seem to be on your game like you used to, and how can I help? And they all went blank, and they said, "Oh, we never thought of that." I said, "Right, that's what I got up and left." I just walked. No, because sometimes we get these algorithms, the expectations. You got to have so many apps in one day, and you have to sell this because you want to get this, and you have this tiered commission system. And with all of that, I'm trying to figure out, God, I got to do all this and pay my rent, and know that we have this certain return policy. So I have to work twice as hard, and then you're wondering why I have an attitude. But no one sits down and says, okay, I see that you're good here, but you seem to be like, how do I get you there? Simplify it. The last thing you want to know is, okay, all of this stuff that I'm doing bad, but this I'm doing good. Introduce the good first, but make it simple, stupid maybe. And just make it human, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. And when people buy a product, I don't care if it's a stick of lipstick. It's because they like it.
Absolutely.
Now,
I forgot. Were you someone that traveled a lot?
Yes.
You were. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, COVID's a little different story because everything was you can't even go anywhere if you want to. What's the most exciting place you've been to?
Paris.
Oh my God, Paris, really?
Oh God,
tell me
beautiful.
Why.
I mean, the Champs-Élysées, the Louvre. I mean, Versailles, Café de la Paix, the Opera House Garnier, being in the 8th arrondissement. I mean, all of it is just, you look at that architecture, you know it's centuries old, and there's a story. I think that's what I fall in love with mostly, is the story, the romance of Paris. I mean, when you think of haute couture, that's where it started. I mean, you know, the finery of clothing and just the artistry of everything and the art. I mean, the city just, I mean, it's dripping in art. And to wake up in the morning and to be able to have a wonderful cup of coffee and a baguette, and you're walking along the Seine. I mean, it's just, you've got to be there to understand it. What I also love, people talk about the Parisians. I think they're great. If you make an attempt to be nice, I don't care where you go in the world, people will perceive you well. Mm-hmm. But if you come in like, I have America on my shoulders, or I'm this person, you got to give to me instead of what I can contribute. And or remember, wherever you go, when in Rome, do as the Romans. If I have decided to visit your country, remember, I'm a visitor, I'm a guest. So it's not so much that you've opened the doors, you've let me in, however way. But since you have let me in, then I must be a guest. I must be kind. I must be understanding, considerate, humble, and appreciative. And if you approach it like that, you're good. I don't care where you go. People will open the door to you, and they will. And it's funny. I will never forget when I was in Paris with my friends. I officiated at the wedding. There was this. We had to go to this cafe. And this woman I walked up, and she just shut up. She says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. And I said, "Not a problem." She says, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from America." She says, "Oh," she's where I said, "California." Oh my gosh! So she said, "You have to tell me." But she said, "Hollywood." I said, "No, I'm from Southern California." But I can tell you about Hollywood. So we're sitting there talking. She's cooking and everything, and then the rest of my crew comes in, and they're making certain demands. She kind of rolled her eyes at them because But she and I had a wonderful conversation, and then also I'll never forget. The inn that we stayed at, it was on Rue de Nau. It was this lovely little inn. There was an older woman at the front door, and she was kind of scruffy. So I would bonjour. I would say, "Oh, good morning." I would say to her, I said, "I know I'm trying. I don't speak Spanish, French well, but I'm trying." She says, "Well, you in Paris, you should learn how to speak French." I said, "You're absolutely right." I said, "But I'm not going to be here I'm just going to be here for a few days, and I'm going to do the best I can." And then she kind of smiled at them. Then one day she comes up to my room. She knocks on the door. She said, "Monsieur, come with me." So I went with her, and we went down to the kitchen, and she cooked me breakfast. And she wanted to know about my life, and I told her about living in the places I've traveled to and everything. So, yeah.
Are you serious? She made you breakfast?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just randomly. She could just
did.
tell looking at you.
It was really, really cool.
Probably the fact that you said, "You're right, I need to, but I'm only here for a day." And she's like, "All right." Compared to like,
no, I'm not.
You work for me kind of a thing.
That's right. No, because she was right. When again, I go back to that saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans, and to learn something about the customs, and just be appreciative.
Yeah, and be respectful. I've learned that.
Yes.
Because I see it here. If I walk by, I see a tourist, different mannerisms and certain things that they may not know about. Okay, you probably shouldn't do that
Yes.
here. But if they catch themselves, "Oh yeah, you're right, I shouldn't." Okay, great. But
And they'll appreciate it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like just where you put the trash at. Like when I went to Japan, it was just we don't do it here. You go to Japan. You're at a crosswalk. There's no cars coming. You wait until the signal changes, and then you cross. Here, we're like, "Oh, there's nobody coming. Skirt." Just
You
keep
don't
going.
do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't realize how big of a deal it was to not do that. I'm like, "There's nobody coming. Why can't you just walk?" And you could just tell the look on their face. I'm looking at, you're not supposed to do that. I'm like, geez. And now I'm like, okay,
and
lesson learned. Next time.
Another thing that I think is interesting is that when you're on the bullet trains, or you are the areas that are designated for senior citizens as well as people who are disabled. Even if there's no one in the car, you don't sit there.
Yeah.
And they will come over and tell you you're not supposed to sit here.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is wonderful.
Oh yeah.
And also
try doing that on BART.
Please. That's why I don't like that. Well, that's why I'm working in Palo Alto and not, working in San Francisco. That's another reason, because it was just, all right, it was before you got to work, you were stressed out.
Yeah.
And then you think about how much you have to pay up for BART. You have to pay for parking. Okay, it takes you an hour or whatever to get to work. Then you have to go through, you're being attacked by these people, and you've never done a thing. All you want to do is get to work. By the time you get to work, you don't want to have a cup of coffee. You want to go straight for this. You do.
But I just tapped a nerve there. I said BART and you went off on that one. That's pretty good.
But it's true.
Yeah, no, I know.
And because BART's not cheap.
Yeah, Part of being the bear, but I got to know all the places you've been to around the world. I'm guessing you went to Europe the most, and you've been most of the countries around there.
I've been to Italy. I've been to the UK, and I've been to France. And my favorite, again, I'd go to Paris and I remember when I first went there, we were in the Charles de Gaulle airport, and then we could have taken. Everyone else took a cab. I took the bus. And I'm driving through. We go through this bad part, and I tell, oh my God, the Folies Bergère. I want to go there. He said, Monsieur, no, it's very dangerous around here. He said, you need to take a cab. I said, oh. I said, okay. And I just wanted to see the city. And there were times. I can tell you, there is nothing like walking around Paris at night. Those cobblestone streets, the places lit up, trees everywhere. I'm a hopeless romantic.
So it's like the movies.
Oh, I love it. It would be wonderful to have a lovely little small pied-à-terre and just to be able to go to the museums all the time you want. Go to the opera house, and listen to a symphony, watching a wonderful ballet, or and then going someplace and having a wonderful meal, or just sitting at a cafe and having coffee and watch time go by.
That's great.
Yeah.
You can actually do it. It's not just in fiction in Hollywood that's how it is. And you go there, you like, oh, this isn't like what I thought I was going to see in American in Paris or whatever that movie is. It's actually like, that's pretty good. Okay. I need the most interesting story of any place that you've been to that no one would ever have guessed about, whatever country, whatever city, persons you've met, something like that.
The most interesting story.
No one would ever guess, like, some place you went to in Paris and then you got lost down the wrong alley, you met this perfect person, or a place that no one ever knew existed that tourists go to, and you go off the beaten path.
Okay, now the most interesting place I've been to, it's not in Paris. The most interesting place I've been to is a dear friend of mine purchased a retirement home, in a place called Borrego Springs. It's about 80 miles southeast of San Diego. And when you drive in, you have to go up in these hills. You come down, like you go in this valley and everything. But when you're driving, during the day, when you're driving down, you could see at some point in history that where Borrego Springs is, it's kind of slanted, but you can tell it was the bottom of an ocean or a sea or something. And because of the way the rocks are and everything. But you have to be up high to actually see it. And there's a part of me that just said, wow. So when you come down and you're driving down and you go into this little town, it reminds you something out of a John Steinbeck novel because it's rickety, and there is only one stop sign. There are no stoplights, and the Avery family purchased several acres in this area that you cannot develop on. And then they hired this Mexican sculptor, and he put 135 statues dispersed throughout the desert. So you get to drive around. There are velociraptors, there are priests, there are, I think there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, crickets. It shows a man who looks like he's, I guess, panning for gold or something. Oh, no, he's like a farmer. Mm-hmm. But all of these statues are dispersed throughout there's this one that's a dragon. It goes like the dragon's on this side, there's a bridge, and then the dragon continues on the other side. And it is the most amazing little find. It's like this little jewel in the middle of nowhere.
Wow. Borrego Springs.
Borrego Springs.
Borrego Springs.
Yes.
Wow, you would never know that unless you're probably from the area.
Yes. And well, my friend, Robert, he was an interior designer in in San Diego. And I have to tell you, the man is just, he's so creative, it's not even funny. He eats, sleeps, and breathes. It's part of his being. It's who he is. He lives beauty. He envelops it himself in it. It's amazing to see how he sees things.
Wow. So
when he invited me, we drove down there, and then I looked at him. I said, "There you go again." I mean, it's a lovely little find in the middle of nowhere, and there are people from all around the world that go to this place. And I don't think the average American knows it exists.
I didn't know it existed. I mean,
you got to look up Borrego Springs. It'll blow you away.
Borrego Springs.
Yes, and you got to go and visit. You can take a bike and ride around. And during the spring, when the desert flowers are in bloom, it's just it's
The
it's
fact
hard to describe.
that there's flowers in the desert.
Yes.
Besides cactus.
Yeah, during the springtime when the flowers are in bloom.
Wow.
The spring flowers, the cactus flowers, and everything are in bloom. It's mind-boggling. It's
That's
gorgeous.
crazy. That's a hidden gem.
It's a hidden gem.
Oh, the problem is now that if this show blows up, everybody's gonna know about it now, and now they're all gonna go over there.
Okay, don't do that. It's not my fault. Just don't use me as a reference.
Don't use this guy?
Because people in Brigham say, "Where is he?" They don't want to take me out. But you can go visit.
Yes, exactly. That's crazy.
It's beautiful. It really is. We have great little finds right here amongst us. Yeah, I would say that would be the most interesting. Yeah.
All right.
It blew me away.
So here's what I gotta know. So before you pass on, if you knew you were gonna go in a year, what's the one place you'd want to go to that you haven't been yet? You've been to Paris enough times, so
I think I'd like to go to Bora Bora.
Bora Bora.
Yeah. I've just heard so many wonderful things about it. Yeah, I'd like to go just to see the water, the greenery, all that lush greenery and everything. I'd like to go to Bora Bora.
Dude, that'd be an experience.
Yeah,
I told somebody one time, in addition to the South Pacific there, like Tahiti and all that stuff, what would I want to do? Probably take the Trans-Siberian Railroad once, just to say I did it. Go from Vladivostok to Moscow, and you see all this country that nobody, 99%.
Yes.
Exactly. It's like frozen in history because it's not developed in Siberia for the most part.
Now, isn't it amazing how much land that's just sitting there and no one, I mean, it's just, well, and in a way, Mike, it's good. Mm-hmm. We can't be everywhere. Why can't we just enjoy nature for what it is? And there can't certain be places just be uninhabitable. Mm-hmm. I mean, or uninhabited, rather.
Yeah.
We can just appreciate its natural beauty. But it's because it's interesting what's happening with Chernobyl. Now, they're seeing how animals, I mean, all the tree growth and everything, I mean, they still have the radioactive problem. And, these animals, of course, have it in them. But look how nature adapts.
Yeah.
Even to, devastation like that. And it was pretty amazing what happened there. Mm-hmm. But it shows all those dilapidated buildings and there's trees, there's plants growing in and animals running around.
Yeah, it's like I Am Legend out there, except in real life.
You're right.
This is what actually happens when you leave a city out there for 30, 40 years. When was it, 1980s?
Yeah.
Yeah, like 40 years.
But it's amazing when you see pictures how it just changed. And it's amazing, 30, 40 years. So, Mother Nature will move on. She will go on. And that's why we need to respect her. And I think what's happening now, and it's pretty bad. I mean, look at the temperatures we're having here, the stuff that's happening all around the world. I do believe there's global change, and I think we were instrumental in this, and we need to take hold, and we're not. We're not, and I think we just have to get with it, because if we don't, there's more to come, and it's not going to be good. I look at what's happening in Miami and all these places.
Well, that was, yeah.
And then look at New York when they had that monsoon. They've never had anything like that before.
It's funny about the climate change. It's like if you were to guess, and I'll tell you my own opinion on this, what do you think is the one thing that is the reason why climate change? Well, climate change has always happened, that term, but human-induced climate change. If you were to guess like one thing, what would you say that's the factor right there? That's the one thing right there that would do.
Well, but Mike, I don't think you can say it. I think it was several. It's petroleum. It's also plastics. There are several things that we've done that are bad. So I don't know how to say just one. Our consumption of foods and also the fact that they've been a lot of things have been genetically altered. I mean, the idea of fast food and the fact that we have become. I mean, you look at the United States compared to a lot of other countries, we consume a lot more than other countries do.
I think that from what you're telling me there, like my answer is embedded in there and most people probably wouldn't even catch it. It's like, if you think about, take a couple years ago when we didn't have any petroleum, we didn't have fossil fuels. They existed. We didn't mine them, all that stuff like that. How were humans actually surviving? We were burning wood because we needed heat and then we can cook our food with it. And that's how we actually did it. The thing was, up until I think 1918, our population was about 2 billion people. Okay. So we'd been around 200,000 plus years, depending on how you want to look at it. And it took us to 1918 before we hit 2 billion people. And in 100 years, we went from 2 billion to almost 8 billion people.
Well, you're right.
And what a lot of us don't realize is because of all the benefits that we've gotten from medical technology and all the ways that we can live longer and healthier that never existed before, we never changed our habits. So a lot of people in the developing world who are just used to, we have to have kids, that's what we do, because, the idea was you try to have children, and it's a 50-50 chance that they're going to survive if the mother's going to survive. And
That's why you had so many.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now that it's like almost a guarantee that if you have a child, you're going to have a successful pregnancy and that the children are going to survive. Now we have all these people here now, but we haven't shut off the valve on that. So,
but this yes and no. The reason why I said I was there was this YouTube. I just happened to. I do that at night when I can't sleep. So there was this. I forgot the gentleman's name, and he's from Europe, but he was talking about how we're actually leveling off. What happens is, this is what happens in society, is you're right. When you live in an area that's rural, I mean, you need the kids and everything. They help till the land, things of that nature. But you're also exposed to the elements, and you don't have the proper care. So there you're going to have more kids because there's a percentage of fatality. Mm-hmm. Now that we live in this environment where you've got an educated mother and father, and you live in nice conditions and everything. Do you know how many children and the average person has?
But,
2.
Yeah.
And so what's happening now in certain areas
for the developed world, especially.
Yes, absolutely.
Underdeveloped world.
No, you're right, because they have to, because it's like survival of the fittest. Mm-hmm. So it's like we're following Darwinism, as it were. So, but that being said, this gentleman was talking about, because of, you have underdeveloped that become developed. You have, once you have an industrial age, you have a middle class society. They're spending money. There's no need to worry about what we worried about before. So what you have is 1 or 2 kids and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So that being said, every single, I guess, society pretty much goes through. I mean, look at what's happening in Africa now. The same thing. It's becoming more developed in certain areas, and they're losing a lot of areas where they have wild animals and things of that nature, and that's why they have these sanctuaries that are being protected and stuff. But but it's part of the cycle.
It's a thing where, if you think about the amount of people that we have now, if we said we're not doing fossil fuels anymore, no more gas, no more oil, no more petroleum products, people might think, oh, it's going to solve everything. No more ozone pollution. But how do you keep people functioning? You go back to burning wood. So now we're creating that smoke in the environment, which almost is worse than if you just, burn oil and gas. So is it this way or that way? Either way, the planet's getting damaged because there's a lot of strain on it. If there's so many people, we have to use all these resources, and the planet's only so big. It's like there's not a lot of resources to go around. And like the way I've seen it is just that if we could, it's hard to say because China's got over 1 billion people. India is number 2. Nigeria, I think, is going to be number 1 in probably 30 years. And it's like the population just keep going up now. Where do they get the resources from to survive?
Well, and then you look at us, and our population's going down.
It's going, because as we're relying more on technology, we're living longer. People like me and my wife were like, we don't have to have kids because we can survive with everything else that we have here. I think it was Lagos, Nigeria, the capital city, how humongous it is, and how it, because of the climate change, the city's just going more underwater, and they have to move more inland. There's no resources inland. A lot of Nigeria, a lot of that part of Africa is desert. So where do you get the resources from? And then you have to truck them in. You got to get them imported from other areas, which causes more pollution. And it's a whole repeating cycle there too. So it's...
Well, look at what's happening in Mumbai and these other places. And they're building these mega mansions. I mean, these mega skyscrapers.
Okay, I think have you had enough?
No, this is skyscrapers and everything else. And you have Dubai. That is, I mean, come on. In the middle of the desert, now that is altering the environment because it's not supposed to be there. I mean, naturally.
Naturally, yeah.
Yeah. So we've changed things, and when we do change, we build in areas where there was nothing, in desolate environments. So look at Vegas in the middle of Nevada. You drive through, there's nothing there, then all of a sudden here's Vegas. Yeah. So with all these things, do I think it contributes to climate change and things? Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of thing there too. And my biggest thing is the overall population of the planet. But what do you do with that? Tell people you all have to stop having kids.
Well, that's what didn't they do that with China? There was just 1 child or something like that.
They had that. Now they've changed that because they see the population getting older, and we don't have enough young people to keep the train going. So now, you can have multiple. I think it's 2 or 3 children now.
And then I wonder what's happening in India. But then also, it's also interesting with all of this that's going on, and the fact that we can travel from one place to another. We have diseases.
That's a whole
and look at COVID and how we all of us react to it so differently. So not only maybe we are we're getting educated, we're getting more sophisticated. We have all this technology, but so are diseases. They want to live as well as we do. They're living organisms, or some of them aren't, but they want to flourish. So they're going to find, as we want to find our way, they're going to find their way.
Another part that we have to try and figure out. And then again, if you look at India, we'll take India or Nigeria for example. Can you blame them for wanting to have the things that we have in the U.S. and the West? Of course, they want to have nice cars. They want to be able to have that security that we have here. And why can't they have it?
But hopefully we present them with, there's education, there's information out there enough so they can make the right decisions.
That's the one thing.
That's what I think. So they can make the right choices.
Well, it's like China was sort of learning that because they had burned so many fossil fuels to sort of catch up to where we're at now, which is why Beijing's always in that fog.
And so we don't know what kind of the respiratory problems and things of that nature that they're having there. And look at what's happening here because of COVID. You have hospitals that are inundated with people in these ICU units that have, this disease, and other people who have other cancer and other different diseases that need to be need to be taken care of. They're not going in because they're for fear of not possibly coming out.
Yeah, it's a whole new world, and that whole conversation is going to keep on going forever. How do you fix this? How do you fix that? But at least people can understand, hey, how do you do your part here? I think where you're going to see a lot in our country as time goes on is that we're going to start taking a step back. People are going to start living a lot more simple. When we went through that extravagant period, we could have these nice cars, these nice houses, this nice clothing and whatever. And it's like, all right, let's take a step back slowly over time. And the more that we lead the pack and we start to consume, the more other countries start following suit in 100 years or whatever. Who knows what the world will look like then? We'll find a way to adapt and get through it eventually.
Well, and I think, like you said, I think we're doing it slowly. Again, the younger people that are in tech or what they like you said, they pare down. They may have a few of their luxuries and things of that nature, but a lot of them do give back and are concerned about the environment, and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
So and then they it's wonderful how they're gathering together and wanting to make a change, and we need to. Yeah. We really do.
I can't wait to see that. That's another topic to go through for another day, but I'm glad that we had that quick blurb about that right now too. And I'm almost done with mine, and you're almost done with yours.
I am, and
this has been a good chat. We're at an hour and 12 minutes or so.
Okay,
time flies when we do that.
Oh yes.
So I'm so glad that you called me back and we made this happen. And there's a lot more in that head of yours that I know you want to talk about too that maybe we don't have time for. But
one thing all you have to do is give me a little help, and I can help with that. I just hope I haven't said anything to offend anyone.
I don't think you have, and if you did, there's no ill intention towards it. You're just trying to talk about certain things.
No, I have my opinions, and maybe some of them aren't. I hope that there are people who are listening to this, and if there are certain things that I said that are incorrect, they can definitely correct me. I'm fine with that because I need to learn too.
Absolutely. So, if I misstate and I say one thing wrong, then put me in check. You can call me out on that. Someone else in the comments might call me out and say, actually, it's this way, not that way. Okay, I didn't know that.
That's good.
That's how we learn. Instead of flipping him the bird and say, you shut up and you tell me which is a lot of what we've been seeing nowadays that we need to learn how to get over. And if this is one way to make it happen, then more power to everybody else out there, I guess.
Yeah, and I do hope that with this, there are people also who come forth and talk about what's going on with them at home, and they're stressed out because of the living situation. I signed down for something I wasn't really aware of and things of that nature, because those would be nice conversations to have too, because there are people out there that are hurting and need help. I have a dear friend who's a therapist, and she's never worked so much. She said there are just a lot of people who are just in pain. I think what's sad is with us, when we get afraid, again, you go to the irrational, and with that we do and act in ways that are later on I know we'll regret, but at that time, because you're so scared, you're so fearful, angry, you can't see it.
Yep.
So you deal with it. You do.
Deal with it.
And then to maneuver that, but when it's a person in that mindset, how do you get a person to calm down and just open yourself up so we can have a conversation? Don't look at me as the enemy. I'm actually here to help you. Because we are communal creatures. We need each other. And also, I'm glad that you're doing this too, Mike, because people have lost the art of conversation, and we say things we have to be careful of saying, because I may say it one way and the person receives it another way. But that wasn't my intent. So you have to be careful with your delivery.
Yeah, and it used to be back in the day, if I said something that you didn't agree with, you'd pull me aside. Hey, just what was your intention with that?
There you
Oh,
go.
I meant this. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because I thought you meant it this way. All right, we're on the same page.
Yes.
As opposed to going on social media and then putting that on blast, and now everybody's out to get you. And it's like, wait, because you misinterpreted what I said wrong, or maybe the way I say it is too direct, or I wasn't thinking about certain things. Okay, then let me know in the appropriate way, like it was back in the day. Your elders would always tell you, say certain things a certain way, and you just knew it. Nowadays, it's not as simple.
No.
Social media or not, I don't know what the answer is on that.
Well, yeah, and sometimes I think social media has hampered us in several ways because it's so. We're so quick to use that device, and then.
Yeah. The world that we live in now. Well, we'll see how it works out in the next 20 years if we can figure out our mistakes with it and try to make it change. It goes both ways, and who knows?
Yeah.
Positive mindset on the outcome, I guess, is the best way to do it.
Well, yes.
So,
I agree.
All right, David. So, if anybody wanted to reach out to you, or if they were interested in a McLaren, how do they find you?
They can find me at Mclaren, San Francisco, and just go. And my email is davidhawley@McLarenSanFrancisco.com.
Right. Do you have Facebook, Instagram? Are you on all that social media?
I am
stuff?
on Facebook. It's funny. I haven't done Instagram. I do so much. Who's got time for all that? But people find time. I don't. So, you can get me on Facebook, or that's my email. You can definitely reach out to me there.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And if they have any questions about how everything works there, you're the man to talk to.
And I would be honored to speak with them.
And no pressure, right? You just want to get to know somebody. And that whole story you told me about the mother who brought the son in, and you made his day, you made her day. Like, that's just, more of that is needed. No one would probably ever guess that somebody would take the time out of the way to do what you did for them. So,
well, it goes back to this, Mike. Do unto others as you would like them to do unto you, not expect them as you would like them. So you have to, if you want someone to receive you well, you have to be ready to receive them. If you want good, you have to be that.
I've learned that too. Do what you got to do. Don't expect anything in return. If you get it, great. If not, you still can sleep well at night.
There you go, because you tried. As long
out.
as you're trying, no one can fault you.
Absolutely. David, thank you so much for coming out and having this conversation. And we got to do it again because there's more going on there that we didn't get to today.
Mike, call me whenever you want. One thing I can't, it seems like when I get up in the morning and you give me a place where I can talk, I won't shut up. So that's not a problem.
Exactly. If it wasn't for the time constraints today, we would keep on going. We'll save the rest for another day.
Absolutely.
All right, David, thank you so much for coming. If you liked the video, please subscribe and follow David if you want to reach out about a McLaren. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.